Childress Racing is now in huge trouble as they received their well-deserved penalties after the Cookout 400 race in Richmond. While Austin Dillon did go on to win the race, he did not do so without raising a few eyebrows. His race win was the most controversial one of the season. For more exciting and breaking news, hit that subscribe button for our channel. We post the latest news on NASCAR. Don't miss out on the action. During the Cookout 400 race, Austin Dillon was actually driving a strong car. The RCR number 3 car was clearly one of the strongest during the weekend. When the green flag was about to drop for racing to resume with just 2 laps to go, Austin Dillon was in the lead with Logano in second and Denny Hamlin right behind the pair of them. As the race resumed, Logano got a good restart and went on to take the lead from Dillon. However, the number 3 crew did not want to give up that race win. As the final lap began, it became clear that Dillon would not be able to get past Logano unless the number 22 crew made a mistake. So Dillon decided that it was in his interest to completely take out Logano out of the race. He went into the third corner and hit Logano in the rear. This sent him spinning and into the wall. As this happened, Dillon lost momentum, and this gave Denny Hamlin the chance to win the race. At this point, Dillon had already taken out one opponent to secure a win. What's the harm of taking out one more? So the number 3 car hooked Hamlin and sent him spinning as well. Just before Dillon wrecked Hamlin, a radio message was heard from one of the members of the number 3 crew shouting, "Wreck him." This was later confirmed to be Brandon Benech, the spotter for the number 3 crew. There was a lot of speculation as to whether Dillon would be penalized or not, but now NASCAR has given the verdict. Austin Dillon will be allowed to retain his race win. However, he will lose his playoff spot for violating Section 12.3.2.1.b of the NASCAR rulebook, which deals with playoff eligibility and states, race finishes must be unencumbered by violations of the NASCAR rules or other actions detrimental to stock car auto racing, or NASCAR as determined in the sole discretion of NASCAR. Explaining the decision, NASCAR's VP of Competition said, "I think, in all due respect to the appeal process, we looked at this and the totality of everything that happened as you enter turn 3, and as the cars got to the start-finish line," Sawyer said. "So, as we looked through all of that data, we came to the conclusion that a line had been crossed. Our sport has been based, going for many, many years, forever, on good, hard racing. Contact has been acceptable. We felt like in this case that the line was crossed." Austin Dillon had clearly crossed the line as he took out the 2 cars. After the race, he had pretty much admitted to doing so intentionally. He said, "I don't know, man. It's just the rules of the sport, right?" Dillon said, "It is what it is. Wins get you into the next round. I did what I had to do to cross the start-finish line first." This was not the only penalty that was handed out after Richmond. NASCAR also suspended the number 3 crew spotter, Brandon Benech, for the next 3 Cup Series races. Explaining the decision to suspend Brandon, Elton Sawyer said, "If you look at the crew chief and you look at the spotter and view them as calming voices in the driver's ear, in this case, we just felt like we've all listened to the audio. We know exactly what was said. We just felt like that's not what we need spotters doing. That's not what we need from a crew chief sitting on a box. They're a calming voice to what the situation is in front of them. And they're supposed to be spotting for the race, not making comments like were made, as we all know." NASCAR obviously does not want their spotters to yell out, "Wreck him," as it shows unsportsmanlike behavior within the team. Right after the race, Childress was confronted about this radio message, and he completely denied its existence altogether. "I didn't hear him, and I was on the radio with him. We'll see. If he did a damn good job at it. He won the race." Childress seems to have no problem with his spotters asking their drivers to take out other drivers just for the race win. This seems unethical. In a sport like NASCAR, the officials have been quite lenient when it comes to forcing sporting rules and regulations. We have often seen them let things slide. During the All-Star race, we saw NASCAR not penalize Kyle Busch for taking out Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in the very first lap of the race. But this time, NASCAR has decided to penalize Austin Dillon. Childress could also face some backlash for his statement, as he basically approved of the "wreck him" message that was communicated by one of his employees to Dillon. These penalties will now set a precedent for the teams and drivers going forward. Now we'll see the drivers be more cautious while battling for the lead of the race. This incident was more in the limelight as it occurred during the final lap, and Logano, Hamlin, and Dillon were contenders for a race win. If this incident had occurred during the middle of the race, we might not have seen NASCAR hand out these penalties. This penalty for RCR means that they have lost their playoff berth, which they thought they had secured in Richmond. In addition to this, NASCAR has also docked 25 points from the team and Dillon in the points table. All the hard work they had done has been lost. However, RCR can still get into the playoffs if they win another race. But the problem with this is that there are only 3 more races until the playoffs. Given that Richmond was strong for the team, they will be looking for circuits with a similar layout as Richmond. Among the 3 races remaining, Darlington is probably the most similar. However, that is the last race of the season. So if RCR is planning to win that race, it would be another Hail Mary for them. There's no doubt that the drivers will have a huge task ahead of them now. So far, they have already struggled a lot this season. Their lead driver, Kyle Busch, has been struggling with the car's specs under the next-gen cars, which were introduced in 2022. These cars generate a lot more downforce than the previous generations, which Busch was quite used to. With more downforce, the car becomes more aerodynamically sensitive, making it vulnerable to dirty air. This makes the car very difficult to control while approaching corners. Austin Dillon's performances this year have been much worse off than Busch's. While Kyle Busch sits in the 18th position in the points table, Austin Dillon sits in the 31st position after the points deduction in Richmond. Before the points deduction, he was 26th. There's no doubt that Dillon's performance in Richmond was a huge morale boost for the team. There's been some good progress in their development over the summer break. However, it may have been too little, too late, as there are only 3 more races in the regular season. It is highly unlikely that the RCR drivers and the team would qualify for a playoff berth. They will most probably use the rest of the season to collect data and develop their car for the 2025 season. This could be more vital as there have been rumors of Kyle Busch wanting to lead the team. He had already mentioned that he would do so if a team like Childress Racing or Hendrick Motorsports were to offer him a contract. This could be possible after the 2025 season. So if RCR wishes to retain Kyle Busch, a 2-time Cup Series champion, they'll need to show that the team can perform and start to win races again. Otherwise, Busch will not want to waste his time with RCR. He is currently 39 years old and is in the final years of his prime. Austin Dillon, on the other hand, has never been a very successful driver in NASCAR. He has always been one of those drivers just there in the team for support. He's currently 34 years old and has never been a serious contender for the championship. He still has a couple of years left with the team, but RCR will not be too worried about losing Dillon as he can be replaced. The same cannot be said for Kyle Busch. In the next 3 races, RCR will give it everything they have to at least have one of their cars in the playoffs. Do you think one of RCR's drivers will be able to win the race in the next 3 weekends? If so, who do you think will win it? Post your thoughts in the comment section below.